Hi guys, so today we're going to take a look at the differences between the different domains and kingdoms, and we're going to see what the difference is between the six main kingdom types. In the content library of your OneNote, you should find this table. We're going to use this as our primary source to distinguish and differentiate between the different kingdom types. So make sure that you go ahead and copy this page from the content library into your own notebook, and then you can fill it out as we go along. Okay? So classification. Organisms are classified into domains and kingdoms based on what their cells look like and what their cells contain, their ability to either make food or eat food, and then also the number of cells that are in their body. And those are the main three ways that we divide the kingdoms. So the first kingdom that we're going to come to is what we call archaea. The domain name is archaea, and then sometimes this is archaebacteria. So if you ever hear like archaebacteria, just remember that that belongs to the kingdom of archaea. The cell type is a prokaryote. So what that means is that they do not have a nucleus. All of your archaea are going to be unicellular, which means they only have one cell. And because they don't have a nucleus, that's going to be very important for our cell structure. So they do not have a nucleus. For their mode of nutrition, archaea can either be autotrophs or they could be heterotrophs. So this kingdom is made up of both types. The thing about archaea that you need to remember, and this is what differentiates it from the bacteria kingdom, is that it's going to live in really, really, really harsh environments, such as your volcanic vents, really deep in the Dead Sea, where it's really, really, really salty. Scientists are now thinking that archaea actually resembles the earliest forms of life on our planet. The chemical makeup is different than bacteria. So bacteria has a chemical in their cell wall that archaea does not. And that's another really distinct difference between the two kingdoms. The next kingdom that we're going to come to is bacteria. Bacteria are also prokaryotes, so that's their cell type. Bacteria are also unicellular, which means they only contain one cell, and their cell structure means that they have no nucleus. Now, just like the archaea, bacteria could either be autotrophs, where it makes their own food, or it could be heterotrophs, which means it eats food. So this kingdom also contains both of those. The thing that makes the bacteria different than the archaea is this little thing that's called peptidoglycan. And what that does is that peptidoglycan, because bacteria contains it, it's going to react to antibiotics a lot differently than archaea does. So that's another important feature for our cell structure, is that the cell wall contains peptidoglycan. Some examples of bacteria are like the lactobacillus. There's a lot of different strains of the lactobacillus, but the most common place where you would find this is actually in your yogurts. So the yogurts actually help you digest your different foods, and it helps your digestive system. So bacteria can be really good for you. But then we also have the more common bad bacteria like E. coli. Obviously, if you get E. coli from spoiled food or food that's not cooked properly, you're going to get really, really sick. The next four kingdoms that we're going to talk about, all of them are in the domain eukaryotes. So all of their cell types are going to be eukaryotic cells, which means that all of them are going to contain a nucleus. So their nucleus is going to contain that DNA, those building blocks of life. So the next following kingdoms are all eukaryotes. The first one that we're going to talk about is kind of the odds and ends kingdom. Protists are just kind of like eukaryotic cells that don't fit anywhere else. So they're going to be kind of a hodgepodge kingdom, but we do refer to them as the odds and ends kingdom. Now, most protists are unicellular, but there are a few exceptions, such as seaweed and algae. Those would have more than one cell. So how many cells do protists have? Most of them have one, but they could have more than one as well. Their cell structure, they do contain a nucleus because they are eukaryotic, and they're either going to be autotrophs or they're going to be heterotrophs. So you kind of have a mixed bag in this kingdom as well. Okay. So here are some examples of protists. You can see the algae, or you have euglena, or you can also have a paramecium, which you probably took a look at underneath the microscope from last year. The next kingdom we need to talk about is fungi. These are kind of the fun guys of the kingdom. Most of them are multicellular, so that means that they're going to contain more than one cell, but their exception is that a few of them could be unicellular. So most of them are multi, but there's a few fungi that are actually unicellular. What makes fungi different from protists is that all fungi are heterotrophs, and what they usually eat is dead or decaying matter. So some examples of your fungi would be mushrooms, mildew, molds, and even some yeast. Yeast is what makes your bread rise. So not all fungi are bad. The yeast is actually going to eat some of the it's going to feed off of some of the sugar that's in your bread, and then it's going to make it rise. The next kingdom that we're going to talk about is plants. You're all very familiar with plants because you see them all the time. Plants are eukaryotic because they do have a nucleus. They're all multicellular, and all of them are autotrophs. Autotrophs means that they can produce their own food, which helps us to separate plants from fungi and protists. Most plants live on land, and they're a very wide range. Some of them produce flowers, some of them produce fruit, some of them produce vegetables. Others of them are really, really large, like a redwood forest, or some of them can be really, really small, just a few centimeters tall. Okay. So some examples of that would just be like a regular fern or a regular dandelion. You guys can come up with your own examples as well. You guys have all seen plants for your entire lives. And then finally, the last kingdom we need to talk about is the animal kingdom. This is the kingdom that we as humans belong to. We are eukaryotes, which means that all of our cells have a nucleus. We are all multicellular, which means we have more than one cell. Our nucleus, or our cell structure, contains a nucleus, but we do not contain a cell wall, which helps us to separate us from the plant kingdom. We are all heterotrophs, which means we rely on other organisms for food. Animals can be found in almost all different environments, from way down deep in the ocean to on land to really high in the tropics to in the mountains where there's not very much air. Animals can be found in almost all environments.